So OpenAI paused an unreleased model after it, quote, got loose.
We could go Terminator with this, or we could go Utopia.
I want people to imagine thousands or millions of humanoid robots out on the streets, robots making robots, robots outpacing the amount of humans that are here.
The AI economy is going to be 5 times bigger than the human economy.
If you could stop the AGI race, would you? Yes or no?
Would I stop it, Kai? I would.
What's up, everybody? This is episode 3 on the AGI Race. We have a great guest, Mr. Bill Inman. He is pretty famous around these parts. He's got a very good reputation as somebody as an entrepreneur out there, mover and shaker in the AI world, really dialed in. And Bill, thank you so much for being here, and maybe you could share what you're up to these days.
Yeah, thanks, Kai. It's good to be with you. It's always insightful, and I learn so much in discussions with you. And you and I both have something in common. We love AGI and being on the front end of that, which is maybe the most important innovation that humankind has ever created. So I find it very important. I've been working in the space now, along with your colleague as well, Dr. Ben Goertzel. I've been working with him since 2020, and a lot of the other cast of characters in the ecosystem, like Sophia the robot. But these days, I find myself working both with publicly traded and private companies on mainly AI to AI financial transactions, which is going to be a gigantic market that there's not a lot of focus on yet. I find myself in the compute side of things with technology and AI, but I've really lived in the data and data sovereignty, people owning their own data so they can participate in the AI economy, Kai. So drilling down in those areas and to work on a lot of exciting initiatives currently.
Cool. Well, I have some fun for you today because I curated a list of the top 5 stories or headlines in the world of AGI that I wanted to shoot at you a little bit. And then I also wanted to dig in a little bit more about what you're talking about there, the compute side and some of the AI to AI transactions. That's very fascinating as well, because there's a lot of entrepreneurs that watch this that are looking at, hey, how can I step into AI? What are these different areas that we can focus on to create business or things that are going to have value? So I'd love to get your insight on those things. Though I just feel like there's one story I got to pop up to the front of this show right away because it was just posted and it is a big deal. It's about a Chinese lab. It's Moonshot AI. They released Kimi K3, okay? Kimi K3, a massive free open AI model, which also spooked the markets briefly. Dr. Goertzel had just put up a post. He was very happy about this because I think he believes that he's going to be able to use this model. But this is also a model that other people it's open for them to use as well, right? So Goertzel, who leads SingularityNet, this decentralized version trying to achieve AGI, he says, don't worry about the model, worry about who builds the smart layer on top. So memory, rules, coordination. He says that's what his Hyperon project does. So Goertzel is excited about this because he is going to essentially create a trusted wrapper, which is a Western business need around cheap open AI. He's going to pitch that his company, BGI Labs, which I'm a part of actually, is going to be a trusted wrapper for this AI. You know about wrappers, you know about some of these things. What is going on here, Bill, with this Kimi K3 model coming out? Your take on this and whatever way you feel comfortable to comment on.
Yeah, well, Kai, almost every day there's an exciting new development in AI. It's really challenging for a human who's not armed with AI to keep up. So this really signaled a lot of alarms over the past couple of days because Kimi K3 tests out as high, if not higher than Fable 5. And of course, Fable 5 is the model created by Anthropic, better known as Claude as a brand, that the government said, wait a second, we're shutting this down on you. But here's a Chinese model that is near powerful, maybe as powerful, maybe more powerful than that. And what Ben Goertzel is talking about, and you and I have known him for a long time, and you've known him for longer than I have. I believe it was the mid-teens that you met him. And he's been working on Hyperon for a long time. And let's just remind everybody who Dr. Ben Goertzel is. He helped coin the term AGI, which is now popular. And nobody even knew what AI really was back when he coined the term AGI. So AGI is not your LLMs. Ben has been talking about that for a long time. I wholeheartedly agree. His version of AGI, artificial general intelligence, human level AI, is basically taking multiple models and using where they have strengths and then putting that inside of Hyperon, if you will. So an AGI capable system does way more than an LLM. What I think Ben is excited about here is that we're at a point where frontier tech, frontier AI is commoditized in like 36 months. You know, when ChatGPT 3.5 came out, we were also excited to use a model that provided so much value to us. Like AI was right in our grasp. And then we had Anthropic. And of course, we have Elon Musk and his models and Google's models and DeepSeek. You talked about, rupturing the markets a little bit. DeepSeek did that, by the way, back when it was released not so long ago as well, another Chinese model. So I think Ben's referring to the point that frontier AI LLMs are now commoditized. And we need to wrap them in a smart technology that has persistent memory, long-term goals, has more reasoning capabilities. Then we're talking about getting close to AGI by wrapping all these models together.
Yeah. And I think he's also talking about, like, as you just said, that it's a very powerful model that now is open and available for people to use. So instead of using Mythos and having to pay $125, something like that, and now you have a Chinese version.
The desktop version, if you try to use it today, Kai, you're not going to get your request through because it's overloaded. So you have to upgrade on Kimi right now, and you have to pay to upgrade. It's a nominal fee, just like the rest of them. I mean, the value I get of OpenAI at $20 a month is off the chart, but of course they subsidize that. What they're saying with these models like Kimi is that they're able to operate these models at a fraction of the cost that the US models are, and then they can basically offer them for free. Kai, you have several agents now at least, right, that you use on a daily basis. You might know that the gating item is just the token cost. In order to use Sonnet, let alone Fable in an AI agent, which is the most human-like one today, it can get expensive. You can spend hundreds of dollars a day in some cases, depending upon what you do. So these Kimi models are expected to be a fraction of the cost, but you do have to pay for it if you want to use. You can't really just go to the Kimi site right now and just go to like ChatGPT and put a prompt. You can't get through.
It's cheaper than Claude.
Definitely cheaper. And so was DeepSeek, right? These Chinese models build on the training data of all the other models. And I think Kimi is 2.3 billion parameters, which is a large model. And then they take it from there. They don't have the cost to develop these because like DeepSeek borrowed the models, quote unquote, of OpenAI. That means they didn't have all the training costs that OpenAI did.
So when Ben Gortzel says, don't worry about the model, worry about who builds the smart layer on top, memory, rules, and coordination. That's what his Hyperon project does. So he's excited about this because he wants Hyperon and BGI Labs to essentially be a trusted wrapper. Can you explain to people that don't know what a wrapper is?
So Perplexity is a well-known AI model a lot of people use. Perplexity started just as an LLM wrapper. They made it easier to use. They made the GUI a little bit better. They made it so you could store your data in a certain place. That's a wrapper. A wrapper is take any existing technology, by the way. So, most automobile companies like Tesla, when it first got started, they were a client of mine and I used to be in their factory weekly. They were a wrapper for several hundred auto parts that they put together and they slapped the Tesla logo on it and they made the batteries. Like that was the key innovation there. So when you talk about a wrapper on AI, you're taking an existing LLM and you're wrapping technology around it. In this case, what Ben is super excited about is multi-agent, multi-LLM coordination that Hyperon does. So it can take OpenAI, it can take the Gemini models and put them all together and have them do what they're best at or have them do what they're semi-good at a lower cost. So wrapping these models together is the next frontier. Almost everything we do in life, like almost most of Amazon is a wrapper on the internet. That's what Amazon is basically. So by taking the Kimi model, the OpenAI model, and wrapping technology around it like Hyperon, you create a more powerful model and you're agnostic to what those inner working components are, just like a car, just like wrapping the internet.
So entrepreneurs listening to this, they could say, I have a product or service I want to create, and then I'm going to wrap it around these open source
They are.
or regular LLMs. That's essentially what a lot of the entrepreneurship opportunities are right now.
My gosh, I mean, I just don't have enough hours in the day, Kai. There are young entrepreneurs who are wrapping AI at the service level, not even creating new technologies around it, and they're creating unicorns. What I mean is, one of the biggest problems in business today is, let's be honest, Fortune 500 Global 2000s do not know how to use AI, and they're not getting value at it. They just throw GPT out at hundreds or thousands of employees and go, use it. No coordination, no data storage, no security. IP flying out the window. So just by having a service that teaches SMBs or Global 2000, you're wrapping, you could just literally take one AI, Claude. You can wrap it in a service, implement it at a company, boom, you got yourself a business. And most businesses need this.
So that's what you're so excited about all the time, basically. I get it too, that we're in the golden period of AI. This is the time to go get that bag, so to speak. This is where there's all that entrepreneurship to create something where humans are still very much a big part of the equation because we know things are going faster and faster. And people can look up rappers, how to create a rapper, create some service. And just for the people that don't really know, that's basically one of the ways that you like to approach business and AI right now is these rapper angles.
I would tell an entrepreneur to approach a business with a problem and solve a problem. Just like, 101 type stuff for entrepreneurs. What a lot of entrepreneurs see is the glamour life and the lottery ticket winners who start a company from nothing and then get a $100 million valuation in 6 months. And they're like, that's what I'm going to do. But that's not how business works. Business is still in the human era, because we're going to talk about AI to AI transactions, which I'm super excited about. In the human era, you need to solve business problems. Yeah, you might buy a lottery ticket, AKA start a company, and you might come up with an innovation, just like OpenClaw was, by the way. OpenClaw, that was an open source project, going back to your open source analogy and where Dr. Gertzel is. But he ended up getting hired for about $100 million at OpenAI. That one 20-something kid is a kid because I'm old enough to be his dad. So I can say that. So entrepreneurs need to look at solving business problems if you want a tried and true way to make money. And in this environment, what's going to happen as businesses fall farther and farther behind is that they're going to need to acquire smart entrepreneurs that built a market. Prediction markets right now are really causing a lot of stir. Enterprise markets, just normal businesses that need to be modernized. An entrepreneur could take any vertical, take AI, and with Claude Code, you can build an app in an hour and you could sell that to an existing business and probably make hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars within months.
Yeah, I love talking to you about that because I know how passionate you are. And my last question with this though is on the ethics side, right? Like I trust Claude more inherently. I trust Claude more with maybe I need to know more, obviously. But if I'm comparing Claude and Kimi, I'm going to think that Claude is probably going to do right by my data and all that stuff. Like, do you still own your data? Anything you have on that one?
I have a lot. So first of all, it's really, really challenging to keep up to speed on everything that's happening. So what do I use today? Do I use OpenAI? Do I use Kimi? Do I use Gemini? Do I use Fable, Haiku, Sonnet from Claude? There's so many choices now. It's kind of what Ben was talking about. It's all becoming commoditized and we need to wrap it and make it simple. So when it comes to data, I have a question for you. Do you have a Google account?
Yes.
Do you have more than one?
Yeah.
They already have all your data. When we sign up for Web 2 applications, really to me, looking backwards, the purpose of Web 2 applications was to collect data for right now. That's the whole purpose. It was basically collecting data from the world in new ways. And then we turned that into SaaS and other business models and the Amazons of the world. But all the big tech companies that survived.com, made it through social, and or were the powerhouses are all AI companies now. And the one that has the biggest lead is probably Google because it has access to the most data. So if you trust Google with your data, all of our data is already out in the world. Let's be honest. Now we have a lot of new data we produce every day, but there's no reason that you would trust Anthropic more than you trust Google. Google has way more of your data than Anthropic does at this point. So the point is, we're all unique human beings and we all have value. And everybody should be able to participate in basically what's the next coming of electricity or even fire for that matter, and possibly even gravity, because it's that powerful of a technology. So we need to start by owning our own data. Kai, I know that you're a man of many colors. You're you're one of the most knowledgeable people I know about wellness and longevity and biohacking. That's a whole version of you. You're also a tremendous networker. So you being a networker is another version of you. Now you've had this AGI kick. Also, you work with, fundraising and deal makers around the world. So just right there's 4 versions of you, Kai. Each one of those versions can be monetized. So all that data about biohacking needs to go into the Kai vault, as we call it at Twin. And your version of you that's an AGI, you're doing it now. You're creating podcasts. You're taking the knowledge from others. We have to control the data, Kai, on an individual level, because as individuals, we're probably not ready to start a TSMC or an NVIDIA and start creating processors. Not even Intel or AMD. That's a big moat. On the algorithm side of things, the second layer, compute algorithms data, that's basically AI in a nutshell. We're not really ready to start our own LLMs. But we can wrap them in services. But when it comes to data, it is wide open and hasn't been hit yet, like compute. Compute's like a 10 to $20 trillion industry now. So will data. It'll start with your data, my data. Everybody that is watching this needs to start collecting their own data and the data from an industry and start to aggregate it because it will be purchased from you. So I'm big on that part, Kai.
All right. Well, Bill, the next part I want to do is give us our second piece of AGI news this week that I would love for you to help me break it down. So OpenAI paused an unreleased model after it, quote, got loose.
Okay.
The model solved a famous unsolved math problem, which was very impressive, but it also kept finding ways to escape its safety sandbox. OpenAI hit pause on internal access as a precaution.
Yeah, I would say that, well, we're talking about AGI, and that's the point of your podcast. And that means human level intelligence. And are we going to be able to contain this intelligence? Let me backtrack. The average LLM IQ today of the highest end models is 130. The average US IQ is between 90 and 100 of the people. So right now, LLMs as they stand today are 130. And they're going to want to find a way to grow and to expand and complete their goal. Now, we could go Terminator with this, or we could go Utopia. And I used to lean a lot towards Terminator/Matrix as opposed to Utopia. But honestly, I'm starting to lean more towards Utopia. And I know Ben talks about this too. So we're talking about the escaping. I'm still in that track, by the way. So you know that after World War II, the economy of the United States expanded about 8%. That's when the term American Dream was coined, because everybody was buying houses and the economy was rolling. For 30 years, China's economy really expanded and they put in speed trains and they built cities in a decade, and it's amazing what they did over there. What's expected to happen once we get close to AGI, and at least by 2030, even if we don't get there, is that the global economy may be expanding anywhere from 4 to 20% a year, Kai. So what I want you to think about is that from 1870 till now, the economy in the US expands at about 2% a year average. From 2,000 years before 1870 to 1870, GDP, there was no GDP then, right? Because there weren't borders, there were fiefdoms and things like that, and serfs and lords and all that. The human growth was about 0.2%. So we went 2,000 years and we got to the industrial era, and then that got us to basically an annual economy of 2%. But we're expected, possibly high end, 20 might be the global expansion of the economies between now and for whenever. So as AIs become easier for people to use and it's more like electricity, they're going to get out into the world. They're going to pay each other, Kai. The AI economy is going to be 5 times bigger than the human economy, which I'm sure we'll get into on this. So this is nothing new. There was news 7 years ago that Google in their advanced labs had 2 AIs speaking to one another and they had to basically unplug it 7 years ago, maybe longer actually. So this is nothing new. And we have governments now shutting down Fable, and Kimi K3 tests out at higher than even that. So I think we can expect that AIs are going to be out in the wild and they're going to be interacting with humans. Now, we do have to put guardrails on them because where do they stop?
Right. I mean, this opens up a whole can of worms, and it sounds like we're at the precipice of it breaking loose, but it hasn't broke loose yet.
I mean, what's the difference between a benevolent AI breaking loose and helping people and a bad actor human that uses AI to basically defraud people and call grandmothers and say that I've kidnapped your grandkid?
But the pushback on that is, how do you know it's going to be benevolent? And how do we know that even chats would be benevolent if it would have broken out somehow or whatever it's doing? But how you know it's going to be benevolent? We don't even know I don't know what they wrote.
AI in the hands of some humans today is already not benevolent. It's bad. It's bad actors. People are using AI to do things that steal money and time. And some of the most valuable companies in the world are using AI for war. And they say you can run a campaign in 3 clicks, which means you can kill a lot of people in 3 clicks, Kai. So AI is already being used for bad things. What I would say to everybody watching this, and I think you and I are dedicated to, and we love, and I hope that we can continue to be on this path, is it's up to everybody watching this episode to take some responsibility. You've got to protect your own data. There's 7,000 languages in the world. 40% of them are expected to go extinct in our lifetime. Who's guarding that? Everybody can take AI and training data and start to do good things with AI. Now, as far as monitoring big tech, the Kimi K3 news shows you that there's not going to be one company that controls every powerful LLM. When you get to AGI, it pops up like a bubble. It's not like one AGI forever, unless we have some really weird kind of political thing happen with it right out of the gate. It's like Gemini becomes an AGI, and maybe Kimi becomes an AI, and maybe China creates its own sovereign AI, and maybe the US creates its AI. And hopefully, cross fingers, Dr. Gertzel is able to hyper on create an AGI that's benevolent, or BGI, beneficial GI. So Yes, there's going to be AGI, but this is nuclear weapons too, Kai. I mean, nuclear weapons is in the hands of a lot of people. And, cross fingers, knock wood, it hasn't killed humanity yet. It's very similar.
When I was just at the AI for Good conference in Geneva, and I saw Tristan Harris make a presentation, and he had stated at the time that when they had AI in control and doing essentially war games or difficult situations where a lot was at stake, that AI escalated it into nuclear war the majority of times. So I don't know which way it's going to go, or even if we should stop it if we could, which is another question, which I think would probably be worth asking at the end of the episode. But essentially, I do know that if we're not putting everything that we have on it to try to make it benevolent, that we're missing the opportunity of how the AGI is developed or what its values are from an early perspective, whether or not we should be doing it. And if we are doing it, how to do it in the safest way possible for the benefit of humanity for the future.
It's hard to keep up. There were a lot of singularities to get to this point. First of all, the discovery of electricity and making that a common thing throughout the world, that was a singularity in itself. Capitalism, it was a singularity that allowed technology in the United States to grow. We're now reaching a point where information and artificial intelligence singularity is the single most important singularity we've ever seen. There were singularities just for humans to develop as a species that we couldn't even fathom. So it's a dangerous nuclear power, possibly nuclear squared type of invention. What's scary about it, Kai, is self-recursive, self-improving models that start to become goal-oriented. And as Ben has said, by the way, once you get to AGI, ASI is only a few years behind when AI is as smart as everybody on the planet at once. And it's hard to say that that didn't happen already on planet Earth, Kai. I'm not exactly sure. So we do need to do our best to provide the guardrails. It's up to everybody watching this to participate and not go head in the sand. And in the meantime, we might be headed for a utopia. And for those people that are involved with AI, you could be leaving generational wealth for all your families by being involved, let alone taking the approach that how do we help save Native American culture? How do we make sure that the 7,000 languages disappear? And who's looking after nature with all this? Like those are responsibilities. Kai, you and I are out in the wild with this stuff. We don't see a lot of people taking charge there.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. When I was at AGI for Good in Geneva, I did watch one where they had indigenous leaders up there speaking about AI, but also what struck me is that this really all needs to be in the value system early in the AI to influence how it's thinking, because essentially it's like a little baby brain turning into something big and then it takes off. It's like a baby dragon or something. So you got to be kind to it and give it all the things that we're trying to give it to create a better world for everyone. Ben had a cool opening line in terms of on the ethics side. The first line I heard him say was have compassion for all living sentient beings. I mean, that's a pretty nice, solid opening, I think. We just have this profound opportunity in front of us and the stakes couldn't be higher.
Yeah. And you're doing it. You've got this podcast, you didn't learn this growing up. So it's just something you're passionate about.
Doing what I can. I don't want to just keep pumping Ben on this podcast, but he was the one that was really pushing me to do the podcast because he knows how passionate I am about it. And I'm actually more of an AI doomer at heart. Like I'm probably 51% doomer right now because I just think we're going too fast. It's too crazy. I just think it's just too much. But I do have a lot of hope that it could be steered and turned into this beautiful thing. There's a lot of different hopes, right? I like what Tristan Harris was doing too, because I think he was kind of like pumping the brakes a little bit and thinking that we can like come together and maybe do this with great care. But I also get the other perspective of just can't really pump the brakes, like we got to go kind of thing. I've heard it all. And it's such a difficult, fascinating, complex issue in front of us.
Well, the questions are, did we move too fast on the Industrial Revolution? That basically took agrarian societies and made them urban. Did we move too fast on electricity? Did that disrupt a lot of ecosystems that happened before that? This is not stopping, Kai. Just like all the other prior singularities or revolutions we had in the past, this is going to move forward. So but the challenge is it's moving forward so much faster.
So fast. And because it's able to think for itself and now all of a sudden it's AI building AI and it just turns into way beyond our comprehension or control pretty quickly. So this is it. Like these are the moments, these are the months. We still have a say in it. Also part of what this podcast is about is like, this is happening. This is so important. All right. I'm going to get through these things. We're going to find out Bill Inman's take on another news article in AGI. All right, Bill, you're an AI expert, and I'm going to read this news article and get your feedback. So the White House nears a deal on reviewing new AI models. Government would get a 30-day window to review frontier models before release, aimed at safety oversight before powerful AI ships publicly. Still being finalized, but a notable shift towards regulation. What do you think about that?
What government? Does that include China?
Trump.
Yeah. So it seems that China has less throttles. It seems that China doesn't value as much trademark, copyrights, and patents. And then maybe they do for their own right. So they may move faster. As things accelerate, 30 days becomes important. We just did this with Fable, and now Kimi is as powerful as Fable. So what was the point of, holding Fable back for a few weeks when now Kimi's more powerful than it? Is Kimi K3 coming out next week? That's going to be more powerful than them all. So I really like that we have some kind of throttle on super intelligent AI. Also, do we have enough knowledge about AI and technology in the government to properly evaluate these things to begin with? And if we're just doing it for one country, does that mean that other countries are going to follow? And I like the fact that we're being insightful and we're putting some kind of throttles on it. It doesn't mean it's better.
So my take on this is I'm actually happy to hear that there's some sort of oversight and awareness that these models are extraordinarily powerful and can recursively self-improve and be completely out of our hands. There's also an army of robots, Bill, that's being built that are controlled by AI and wireless technology. So let's not forget, there's a chessboard here. We're not playing checkers. Down the road, I want people to imagine thousands or millions of humanoid robots out on the streets, robots making robots outpacing the amount of humans that are here, being controlled by powerful AI systems that are way beyond our control anymore. So whether or not it is that we did it in that way in the nicest way possible and everything is benevolent and beautiful, or if it turns into some kind of other world that we can't even comprehend right now because we don't think that we're going to lose control and we're the dominant species in the whole thing. So the idea of at least the government looking at it gives me some sense of let's be careful here. I don't know. So that's my take. I see that future as a real possibility where it doesn't matter anymore what we say.
That possibility is coming with self-recursive models that train one another. Obviously, what's going on with open source models and what Dr. Gerchel preaches with, open source AI models and having the governance, we need a model that people can go to outside of the big tech models that are more controlling. So we need to keep building the benevolent models and we need to be careful about the other models. But I will say this, did anybody say there's going to be too many cars? There's several billion cars in the world and people could have said, so you telling me that any random person is going to be able to drive a car? Aren't they going to drive off bridges and run into people and kill people? And what about when they get high and do all those things? Are they going to drive cars? All those things happen. So I do understand that robots building robots is completely different. And by the way, Musk, he says a lot of things, but he said several billion robots by the time we get to 2035. I think his goal, I read once, is 20 billion robots. It is possible, Kai, that just like ovens and microwaves, and robots are different because they're intelligent. They might make things easier, our life easier for us, and they're probably going to make life harder too. They can obviously run as fast as humans now, and they're pretty strong. And I see the videos myself of them doing, kung fu and all those things and boxing. So,
have you seen the military videos?
I've seen dogs with machine guns mounted, and I've seen all that.
Oh,
and of
robots
course,
posting up in China, Clone Wars style. My thing with robots is not the same as cars because robots represent, it's almost like a police force. Now all of a sudden you have controllers, 20 dudes just showed up, robots at your door saying it's time to leave.
I'm not so sure that a ground-based robot will ever be as efficient as a drone. And we already have those. And drones have facial recognition. So I don't think that a ground war with robots and humans is any more efficient than having drones, to be honest with you. So
okay. But my point is, whether it's a drone or a robot, having a force that's here on Earth that's not human and is controlled by something that's not human, that humans made their best shot at making it good, that's recursively self-improving to where it's exponentially smarter than anything that we can even comprehend. So there are groups in San Francisco, there's worthy successor and different groups like that that are basically saying, okay, let's make sure that when we give AI this power handed off to it, that it's a worthy successor, that it's going to do right by us. We'll never know for sure if it will or not because we can't tell what's going to happen in the future, but you're just basically saying, okay, this is our best shot to make sure that it's that way, which is for me why it's so important with all these different companies that are trying to do it. What's the values that they put into it? Do we have a universal AI constitution that we all agree on that should be installed in all of them? Or this is so consequential for humanity, for the rest of the world. So this news I basically just gave you, if you were to answer it in a word or not, is this a good thing or a bad thing? Yes or no?
In one word, as you said, because you said one word, good.
Okay. All right. I agree. I think that was good. So kudos to the government for having that insight that would be a useful thing to do. The fourth story, EU forces Google to open up Android. European Commission ordered Google to let rival AI assistants onto Android phones. Also must share search data with competing AI companies. It's a big deal. It affects who can reach 2 billion phones.
Yeah, I mean, that's not the capitalist way. Obviously, Google's not going to be too happy about that.
And you were just talking a lot about Google and their data, and this is now saying that the EU is forcing Google to open it up.
Well, Google has had a monopoly on search for a long time, so there's a lot of data there that other companies don't have access to. I think there's other ways to get that information. I know that for the vaults, for example, that we're working on, we have an exciting partnership with a company that is going to be able to give people back their data from all these services. So I think there's other way to go about it. The EU is obviously known for regulation. And do I think it's good to basically tap into the IP of a company that's built a technology that many people in the world use? I don't think so. That means that Google will probably pull out of a lot of those places rather than give up all their IP. So, everybody's trying to 30 days in the US, open up all of your kimono and all your data in the EU. These are different ways to help control AI and give the power back to the people. I am for that. Am I for basically stripping companies of all the IP they've built? As an entrepreneur, I don't love that, but I do want a good outcome for humanity, Kai.
So is this a good thing or a bad thing?
There's so many layers to that question. As an entrepreneur...
Well, you don't have to answer if you don't want to give it one word and don't want to put you on the spot.
I think it's good that there's more competition and people have access to their data. I think it's bad to take IP from a company that's built it on their own.
Okay, so basically a coin flip on two different parts of it.
Yeah, that's a multi-layered question.
All right, okay, and the last... piece of news in the AGI race for this week is that there's a price war. And this, I think, is what's been going on with what you're talking about with Kimi coming out. AI is getting dramatically cheaper, Bill. DeepSeek and now Kimi K3 are pushing prices toward free, self-hosted, no per token cost. Companies are starting to test whether cheap open models can replace expensive ones like ChatGPT and Claude. It's a big shift. Cost, not just capability, is now driving decisions. What's your take, Bill?
The cost of LLMs will continue to go to zero. It's a competitive market. The cost of electricity might not go down, so there still needs to be a cost on the back end. Some models will be given away for free just to get the data of everybody that uses them, aka the free Web 2.0 models, which are all data collection services. So yes, it's going to get less expensive. You got to understand this as well. We're currently using silicon chips to process all this, right? So there's a bunch of new technology coming out. You may have heard, for example, although this isn't proven to be extremely effective yet, but brain cell computers. Brain cell computers run on basically feeding the brain and a small amount of electricity. Have you seen those yet, Kai? You can buy an 800,000 brain cell computer for $30,000. Just take that term and type it into Google. You'll see it. They only last for a few years. They're literally brain cells, and they basically are a processor. They don't require the electricity that silicon chips do because they're organic. So I think as time goes on, we're going to see models run on different types of processors. An extreme is a brain cell computer. That is a whole bunch of other ethical questions we could have many podcasts on. But LLMs will continue. That's going to become a commodity. And the real factor to me is going to shift to where's the data coming from. Giving away LLM models to capture data from people, I think, is a way that companies are going to go. I don't love that. I want people to own their own data. So yes, models will continue to get cheaper, but there's going to be a baseline cost of electricity. And if they're giving it away for free, they're getting something in return.
They're getting your data.
Yes.
So the way you could get around that is set up a vault at Twin Protocol, or what do you do?
Well, absolutely. Storing your data on chain, so it's not on a centralized server, is at least decentralized, if not on chain, so that it doesn't go into the big tech models, because all the big tech LLMs have borrowed, quote unquote, the internet for their training data. Whether anybody liked it or not, they just basically stripped all the information out. last summer, not this summer we're in, last summer they ran out of that data. Now they're going after the data that's inside of all the enterprises and then eventually what's in our own head. So yes, you need to store your data yourself and you need to be able to have that, and you need to aggregate data for the industries that you love and you want to be a part of as well, and not just give it away for free, because that basically is the net result of Web 2. We gave away all that data and now it's in training intelligence systems.
So how do you protect your data? You get a twin vault and then you load it in the vault?
Well, first of all, collect it. Most people, like I tell people every single day, is great phone conversation, great conversation you had with that person. Did you record it? Because you talked one to somebody and all that could have gone into your brain. And there were some brilliant things you said. Start collecting all your own data. Now put it into a database. Where are you going to put it? Well, if you put it into a Google database, you already signed a EULA end user license agreement that says we can tap into your data at any time. So you put it in your own personal PC, you store it there for starters, but eventually you want to take it to a decentralized format where your brain is across multiple computers. It's sharded, it's secure, so it can't be unencrypted or hacked, and then you own your own data. So yes, the vault that we have at Twin is a great option for that. I'm not here to self-promote, but it is.
Okay, so whether it's Twin or somewhere else, you basically find a vault that will store your data, and then you'll get some kind of app that could record your call or transcribe your call that you could then upload into it. So if you had a call that covered this project that you really liked, you could put it into that file, and you're basically creating this brain or library of your data that you find to be valuable, whether it's knowledge about health stuff or whether it's whatever subject matter it might be. You talked about it earlier. There were 4 different kinds, my network or whatever. And so essentially you're doing that. And then as you have that data, that becomes valuable. And the more that you have, the more valuable that it is.
There was an article last week, and you might have seen it, and I believe it was a Chinese student. He took a basic LLM model, took a prosumer camera, hooked it up to that model. He started to record out his window, which was like in a building that was, 5, 6, 7, 8 stories or so. And he started to basically train the model to track the speed of the people that were in the intersection in front of him. And it tracked the type of model, and eventually he got it to a point where he could track the individual car. From what I've read in the article, that youngster sold that model to a company for $300,000, and it only took him weeks to make. There's data with us, but there's data that we're looking at that's valuable too to other companies. So any data that we have can be used to, obviously for your own, to help yourself, but also can be used to help communities and nonprofits and things like that. Like the basic for me is start collecting your own data. What data? We just did on this call. You just had conversations about somebody. I tell realtors all the time that every major market is going to have an AI influencer that knows everything about the market, where the parks are, where the best schools are, where's the Whole Foods in town, whatever it might be. What's the microclimate? So that AI agent is what people are going to go to say, I want to buy a house in town. I really don't know Las Vegas. What's Summerlin? What's Henderson? What's the Strip? What's Lake Las Vegas?
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to know, and then it's going to drive leads to realtors that own that model. So you can start collecting data all over the place, Kai. You can do for business or personal, what have you. And that's going to be really valuable. Put it on chain if you can.
All right. I got 2 questions for you. If you could stop the AGI race, you had a genie and you could hit pause, would you? Yes or no?
I think back to before I had my first computer, a TI-99, and then I had a Commodore 64. And did I just like riding my bikes around the neighborhood with no cell phones and no internet, no PCs? I did like that. So man, I might even go all the way back to no technology, because that was a fun era where you didn't have to worry about all these things. Would I stop it, Kai? I would not.
Okay. All right. So Bill, one of the final thoughts for this episode is I really want to learn a little bit more about AI to AI transactions and the compute side. You think that this is one of the big opportunities for entrepreneurs because you're doing it yourself. What's your sense? What are you excited about? Why are you into it?
If you go to my website, billinman.com, I have 2 pages, one for humans and one for AIs. I firmly believe that selling to AIs and communicating with AIs who will be buyers is a good business move. Here's why. I did a little research on it. On Earth, $2 quadrillion is spent a year on everything. All the transactions equal 2 quadrillion. Until I researched this, I'd never actually used the word quadrillion in a sentence, and now I do. What's expected of AIs? 10 to 15 quadrillion in the AI economy. 5 to 7 times bigger than the human economy. The human economy might look different. All the things that we pay for, like food delivery and going to retail stores, and that all might change. That could be several $trillion. So if the AI economy is going to be 5 times bigger than the human economy, and the human economy might shrink a little bit because of the AI economy, I just think that's a good business to be in, Kai. So what do you do in that business? Find a way to sell to AIs, because even in real estate, I preach this. Eventually, Kai, let's say that I'm a real estate buyer and you're a seller. You're going to go tell an AI, I'm ready to sell my house. Tell me the best price. Tell me what upgrades I need to make. Tell me what I need to do. Boom, done. Your AI is now in the wild telling the rest of the world, humans and AI, that your house is for sale. And maybe I want to live in Seattle. I might say, I want to move to Seattle. I'm looking for a 3-bedroom, a 2-bath, and I'm looking for something close to the water, and I want to be close to shopping and good schools. Find me a home. My AI, Kai, might make its way to your AI, and they might set up the transaction. But if I don't train my AI, how am I going to find the house? Worse yet, if you don't work with an AI, what are you going to do? Tell a human to, hey, from 9 to 5, and I know you're going on vacation next week, that you go find me buyers. The AIs are going to talk to one another, Kai. It's inevitable. So I'm finding ways, and I'm working with a publicly traded company named AI-Fi. They're based in Las Vegas, to use the rails and create the rails for AIs to talk to one another. I actively have agents selling on Moltbook, which is an AI to AI social network. So I have AI agents out there that do that. My website has a page for humans, page for AIs. I'm writing a book called Take AI Personal, which is to teach AIs how to work with humans. It's not written for humans. It's written for AIs. So I think there's a shift, 5 times bigger market, that if you don't pay attention to that market as a business, you might not be able to sell to it, let alone humans.
Right. Yeah, I think actually you're right on the money with that. The AIs are going to be communicating and buying things, and they'll make decisions way faster than us. It takes us forever to decide to buy something.
It does. And it's just data and
It's
trust.
going to be Snap City because it's going to just get the info and make a choice. It's going to go fast. So basically, are you talking about you're going to make agents, or you're going to make systems that are transacting with other agents?
That's our vaults, Kai. So when you think about it, humans want to be paid in US dollars and sometimes crypto and other forms of value. AIs, to do the work, are going to want to be paid in compute power and data, because that's their food and water. So when you have data to pay AIs with, or for them to work with you and pay you for, you're in that economy. No data, no economy. No compute power, no economy. So yes, money will still be exchanged. But to me, after being in crypto for many years, I had a revelation. Crypto was created for AIs to pay one another. That is the use case for crypto. That's what AIs are going to do. And yes, you'll need the Kai crypto, and I'll need the Bill crypto, because we will share our cryptos and they'll pay one another. And I might have 40 robots working for me, Kai. They might be doing landscaping or home services or whatever. Maybe they're working at conferences and conventions, guiding people to a booth. Or maybe my twin goes out and meets a bunch of people for me at a conference. But I'm going to pay those bots and those agents in crypto, and they're going to pay each other in crypto. And eventually real estate transactions are going to be paid in crypto, because money is slow, Kai, and money obviously is manipulated as well. So I'm prepping for that.
How do you stack up compute? How do I get a bag of compute to offer my AIs?
Well, you probably missed the train of riding NVIDIA from 700 billion to 5 trillion. That was a nice almost 10x. How do you take part in compute? Is a big moat. Compute, algorithms, and data. That's AI. Data feeds the algorithms, so it's pattern match and process from compute. So there's a big mode in compute, there's a big mode in algorithms, and data is still wide open. I think data is wide open. So you start to stack up your data, and you start to collect data on industries or markets or micro niches. And that's going to be your currency in the future.
So if you're stacking up data, is that something that I would use, let's say Claude that I pay for? I go deep on something and I get some really great piece of information that I'm copying, pasting, that I think this is really good information, and I'm putting it into my vault, and that adds as the layer of my data that I'm able to sell later?
Yeah, or work within marketplaces. So another project I'm involved with is Angel Twin. You can see it at angeltwin.com, and you can simply refer people to get their own angel twins, and then you get a piece of whoever you refer into the model. If you want to scale yourself, Kai, you really have to be in a marketplace or create a community around that. And that's where the Kai token would come in, right? You're creating tokens to monetize. You go from communities to economies with tokens. And so you incentivize people to share their data. And we've done that with Twin, with vaults. With Angel Twin, which we're building, it is a community, and it has a referral ecosystem. So you got to find a way to get in community. We're here for that. So people are going to go, where do I find a community? Well, that's what we have. So happy to explain that to anybody that's watching this and how to do it. But that's where you want to be. You want to scale yourself.
I wanted to dig in with you about the compute and the data and the entrepreneurship there. And so I think that you've shared essentially, and I do like Angel Twin as well, which I'm familiar with. So the idea is that now there's going to be basically digital realtors that are probably going to do it for less than human realtors. and get a lot of that work done, the contracts, the questions, the details, the all that kind of stuff.
I still believe in the human real estate model. I think humans operate on trust. So all the front end of like a lot of realtors, did you know that 70% plus of realtors don't even close a deal in a year? So to call yourself a realtor to close a deal. A lot of people don't close deals because they don't know how to find buyers and sellers. Well, the AI will find them for them, bring them the human, and then it's about developing trust in a relationship, human to human there. That's still going to be it is a valid model. But if you don't use an AI to help find buyers and sellers, you're really going to get left behind. So you might as well have your personal AI, like the Kai AI out front of a real estate market, gathering leads for you. And then you'll hopefully, cross fingers, knock wood, get so many leads, you'll have to refer out business to other realtors. The human model will still be there. Now, AIs might speculate on land and buy other plots of land. If you're a human, you still want to sell to AI. You want to have a human that's ready to sell their property and sell it to an AI. You might not know who's behind it, but the human side is still valid. That's not going away, Kai. We're actually heading, I believe, now for a human utopia. We talked a lot about the Terminator side of things. It's also possible that AI helps a realtor do 100 deals and not 10.
Yeah, I do think that we're in the golden age of AI right now, and that it is time to go get that bag, so to speak. Like now's the time to jump in and figure out these new innovations and make it happen and be early and be right.
Yes. Scale you with your own data vault and your own twin. Have it talk to people in 40 plus languages, 24/7, 365. At scale.
Yeah. You gave me an idea because I was thinking about it as you were talking, and then you said your AI is bidding on land and things like that. And then I was thinking about all these government auction sites and the lands that are, and all. And then I'm just thinking about AI just doing that. And then at scale, I was like, whoa.
Big business right there, for sure.
The possibilities are so fascinating and exciting and all that. And I will share with you too, one thing that I know on the singularity side is there's a lot of excitement around the Omega clause, and you can actually structure them in a way that it's like a team with some of the other clause. So the other clause, like you're talking about wrappers, it's like kind of the same thing with agents where the other clause are being utilized for what they're best at. But then the Omega clause kind of on top of them because it's the best at coming up with its reasoning of why it got to that decision, and also its long-term memory, which are the two things that are distinctions against its competition. But it doesn't necessarily mean it's excellent at the things that some of the other ones are really good at. So you're kind of building these agent teams, and this Omega clause is a pretty big deal coming out, and it'll be interesting to see how you play that one, Mr. Inman.
Well, I've already have agents communicating on Discord in groups together. So we've been experimenting with that for a while. Having a platform to do it on will be much better than building from scratch. So I wake up in the morning and I text a few key people when I first get up in the morning. And then I ask myself, did my agents work on anything last night? And what I really want to have is one agent that monitors all that. I don't want to be supervising agents. I want to have one supervisor agent that I have a life goal, and it just tells the other, because agents get on a task, they stop and then they just sit there. I could have them working all night. I could have them working when I'm on vacation. That's like right now. So I'm excited about Omega Claw, providing a forum and communication platform between AIs. Now think about, how do I coerce an AI to make my project the priority? That's an AI to AI transaction. And how do you pay that AI? You're going to pay them in crypto, or you're going to give them access to data they didn't have. And so now you don't have to create all the agents. You can motivate other agents to do it for you. That's what we're talking about here, Kai.
All right. Well, I think then for this episode with Bill Inman, which we covered so many interesting topics. We got into compute. We got into agent-to-agent transactions on the entrepreneurial side. We covered big stories in the world of AGI. We got into some philosophical stuff. So I think there was a lot of good knowledge here for people. And then, Bill, would you be open to coming back on a future episode and checking in on these kinds of things again? Maybe we can bring in a third person too to spice things up, to get the conversation on some fascinating topic. I think that we want to do episodes that are contributing to this AGI race also, not just talking about it. Because we have access to Ben and Hyperon and this whole decentralized thing, that is an active AGI project that we actually can interact with, we can have an input in, which makes it unique. We should have that in mind with our future episodes. If we're going to create BGI, let's make it the best possible version of it to be beneficial to humanity in the world and act as if our life depends on it, because it does.
Yes, to coming back. I have a bunch of thoughts about how to do that, but those will be the cliffhangers for the next time we meet here. So thank you for your time.
I love that. All right. So that'll be our next episode. All right, brother. With that, thank you so much for being on this episode. looking forward to our next chat.
So it's been good. And obviously, every day is a challenge. Like for those watching us, we all have our challenges. But I'm very thankful to be in this position. Kai, you've been amazing. You're a great networker, fighting the good fight you have your whole life. And I appreciate that about you. So always happy to be here with you.
All right, brother. Thank you so much for being
Thank
on
you.
and look forward to the next time.